What's up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to the Norwich Manchester City post-match analysis video, and you can tell how excited and happy I am because after 18 games where Manchester City won 17 of them and have drawn just one, finally Norwich, who are the former championship team, they got promoted from the second division of English football, have beaten Manchester City when they had like 10 players out injured. This is one of the biggest upsets of the whole Premier League season in my opinion. Nobody saw this coming. Norwich's victory had odds of 23, the draw had odds of like 11, and the Man City win had odds of 1.08, which shows that it was just an absolute landslide favorites, Manchester City. And Norwich really showed the whole Premier League and probably the whole world you can get a big reward if you have the bravery and the courage to actually attack Manchester City. Especially now with Laporte, their best defender, out injured for 6 months. This Man City team is not an invincible team. Last season they lost I think 4 games, which showed that if teams really attack Man City, even like relegation candidates like Norwich City, they can get a serious reward for attacking Manchester City. And one of my biggest complaints last season was that too many teams have lost against Man City before they even started the game. They just went on the pitch like the game was already over and that they had virtually no chance. And that's in their minds. They thought that they had no chance against Man City, so they just defended for 90 minutes, and even inevitably, sooner or later, Man City scored 1 or 2 or even 3 goals. But Norwich, when they had the opportunity, they really attacked Manchester City, and on the counter-attack, they actually scored an absolutely brilliant goal. Of the second goal, where Pukki races clear, and many thought that Pukki would shoot, but instead he had the unselfish vision to pick out Cantwell. What a young player Cantwell is. He is a huge talent, and I'm very impressed by Cantwell this season. But Pukki, he is one of the top scorers of the Premier League. What a season he's having. To score a goal and get an assist against Manchester City is a brilliant achievement, and it's no coincidence because Pukki scored 29 goals last season in the Championship. And many people were asking, can he cut it in the Premier League? And oh boy, yes he can. And it's an amazing story because Norwich was let go by Celtic, so he failed in Scottish football, and you thought that after that his career will go downwards rather. But he had other ideas, and it's just a great testament that you should never give up, because Pukki was a free transfer for Norwich City, and what a free transfer, probably one of the best free transfers in Norwich's whole history. And honestly, I'm really impressed by Pukki and how he's linking up play. He's just not just a goal scorer, but he's also a creator, and he has a lot to his game. Aguero pulled up a goal back in the 45th minute, and at that moment I thought surely the second half Manchester City will steamroll Norwich. But the way Otamendi, in almost every game, this is the biggest complaint against Otamendi, sorry, that he has 1 or 2 lapses of concentration which costs Manchester City. And once again Otamendi with an absolute howler. How can you sleep on the ball when Norwich is clearly high pressing you, and Otamendi, like, he does this after he got dispossessed as if it was a foul or something. Maybe he was hoping the referee would bail him out. And then I think it was it was Buendia who squared it to Pukki, very unselfish, and Pukki had the goalkeeper and the defender on the line, but he managed to lift it over them and into the back of the net. And after 3-1, it got a lot more interesting, and Manchester City had their chances. Raheem Sterling hit the post in the first half, so that could have been very different if that goes in. I think the scoreline was 1-0 at that time. And in the second half, Manchester City had chances. Aguero had a very clear header from a Raheem Sterling cross, which he missed. And normally Aguero is very reliable and scores those. And actually, a very unlikely scorer, the Manchester City defensive midfielder Rodri scored after Gabriel Jesus passed to him. He had the whole Norwich backline and midfield ahead of him, but from like 23, 24 yards, Rodrigo scored. The goalkeeper maybe should have done a little bit better because the ball wasn't exactly in the corner. But to be fair to Tim Krul, there were a lot of bodies ahead of him. And after that you thought, okay, Manchester City could actually equalize here. But Norwich defended heroically, and the way that they kept the ball was very, very impressive. And this is a huge moment in the title race. As early as it is right now, we have to talk about it, because last season I think there wasn't a big gap in the first 10-12 games of the season. But then Liverpool started to pull away, and you know the drill. In January, Liverpool were like 10 points clear of Manchester City at one point. But then in the second half of the season, Liverpool had a lot of draws and we lost to Man City very unluckily. This season, I think we shouldn't get carried away. So the same happened last season. Liverpool started pulling away, but we started pulling away after like 10-12 game weeks. So this is very significant. 5 points clear Liverpool are ahead of Manchester City. But Liverpool go to Chelsea next in the Premier League, and then before that we go to Napoli. So probably Liverpool shouldn't really feel in the driving seat because of how early it is in the season. But I think this defeat is really, really significant, because Manchester City last season, they didn't lose to absolute relegation candidates like Crystal Palace. Yeah, maybe you can call them relegation candidates, but Norwich City, actually the bookmakers I think had them finish in like 16th, 17th place, and I think they will finish a lot higher because they gave Chelsea a very good run for their money. They also beat Newcastle at home, and now they have beaten Manchester City, and this was actually a very convincing win. Norwich City didn't have their backs to the wall all the time. When they had the chance, they were playing out, they were very clever with their passing, so huge credit goes to Norwich City. And also Guardiola has a lot of serious thinking to do, because now he has a 5-point difference between him and between his team and Liverpool, and also he has no Laporte and no Leroy Sané until at least January or February. So does he bring in some big reinforcements in the January transfer window? I think Man City still has the best squad in the Premier League. Not always the best squad wins the Premier League title. The team who is the most consistent wins it. And now I feel that Liverpool have slightly the edge. It's still very early, so I don't want to say that Liverpool are favorites, because I think Man City are still favorites just because of how big their squad is. And I think the biggest mistake for Guardiola is that he failed to start Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne, who was in red hot form for Man City all throughout since the beginning of the season, and he also got, I think, 3 assists and 1 goal for Belgium, and he's in red hot form for club and country. Why would you sit him on the bench? I think if there was a player to maybe rest, it was potentially Raheem Sterling, because he hasn't been in that great form, and again he blanked today after he blanked last week as well. And Raheem Sterling played 2 games for England, but yeah, Kevin De Bruyne also played 2 games for Belgium. So it was a tough decision for Guardiola, not gonna lie. He had to rest one of his stars, because you can't play them 2 times every single week and not expect them to break down with injuries. And I think he was trying to be careful with De Bruyne, not to get him injured again, but it backfired massively, because without Kevin De Bruyne it looked like Man City lacked that creative spark in midfield. I mean, Gundogan, David Silva, they are good players, but they are not on the level of Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne is just one level above them, and that's how I felt. And yeah, Sterling had some moments. He could have scored today, so he was quite unlucky not to get on the score sheet. On another day, he could have had an assist. Aguero really should have finished that header off. And Gabriel Jesus also had some chances, but he couldn't score either. So it's a lot of head scratching for Guardiola. And do you think now that Liverpool are favourites for the Premier League title, or is it more equal, or do you think still Man City are favourites? Let me know, how do you see the title race unfolding? I would love to hear your opinion. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. See you later. Goodbye.